Hi, I'm Talya, and this is Victoria.
Hi!
And we are two Tweedledums Thinking about our recent high school experience, uni apps, and life ahead of college. We're recent IB survivors, and we want you to survive it too.
So in this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about the application process for United States versus the United Kingdom. And we hope this is very helpful for those in 10th, 11th, or even 9th grade as you're thinking about where you want to go. And this is just based off of our experience.
Yes. So this is not going to apply to everyone, I guess. It depends on your situation as well. But I should clarify that Vic will be talking about the US because that's where you applied, and I'll be talking about the UK.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so where are we going to, establish our reliability? Okay, Talia, where are you going?
So I'm pretty sure I'm going to the University of Warwick.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Majoring in?
Theater and Performance Studies.
Woohoo! Okay.
Victoria is going to
Yale.
Why'd you say it like that? She's going to Yale, guys. I mean, not to flex, but...
Yes, I'm going to Yale University.
And what are you studying?
I'm studying economics.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. So we decided to talk about our experience because there's a very different application system for those two countries, and they have different expectations too. So I think before we get into the nitty-gritty of each application component, making your list of universities is the first step to do. And I think it's really crucial. I think we spent, at least I spent with my counselor, the second half, the last quarter of 11th grade up till August, the first month of 12th grade. Basically the whole summer to think about where I wanted to apply. And I don't know if she said this to you, but my counselor told me that we should choose schools not just based on the ranking or the brand name, but also whether the program there, in terms of the living situation, the academic program, the class structure, the advising system, and all that. Does it fit you, and does the school culture and vibe fit you?
I guess we have the same counselor.
Yeah.
But something she told me that I found quite interesting is that she said we should select, at least for UCAS, because it's only 5 universities, 2 that are pretty much very safe and you feel like it's guaranteed that you'll get accepted, 2 that are, that you still have to work for, but you can probably get into, and then 1 school that's a dream school that is quite far-fetched in a way, but there is still a possibility you might get accepted.
Yeah. Whereas for the US, usually with the US you want to apply to more than 5 just for safety. So usually we kind of go for 10, assuming that schools like the University of California are considered as 1 application because it's just 1. And I think if I'm not wrong, she advised 3 dream schools, Harvard, Princeton, Yale sort of schools, or whatever is your dream. 4 target schools, schools that you could get into, that you meet the requirements quite nicely, and then 3 safeties usually. And I mean, it doesn't always apply because some people go apply way more, but that's the general proportion.
Yeah, and even for me, I don't think I necessarily took her advice.
Yeah.
But it's okay, it worked out in the end.
It worked out quite nicely.
Yes.
And so, when you make your list of universities, you know that you have a certain set number that you're allowed, or that that you're capable of doing, because it's a very tiring process, and especially for the US, when you apply to tons of schools, you have to write essays for each school, and it's just very tiring. So you kind of also need to do some soul searching yourself during the summer between junior and senior year, which is what I did. What do you actually look for in a school? What do you like or dislike from your high school right now? And which universities cater to most of what you want in a school, because I think that's very important. Because of course, when you ask your parents, they say, oh, we want what's best for you, but sometimes they just think oh, we want you to go to this school because people who go there are successful or something. But those people are successful because it just fit them, right? You also want to make sure that when you go to school, it's not just a place where successful people came from, but that you can be one of those successful
Don't go
people.
somewhere just because of the name, or
Yeah.
just because lots of people in your country or in your circle believe that's
Yeah.
worthy university. I
Yeah.
guess.
And don't just go because your friends are there.
Please don't. I mean, I hardly know where anyone's going, so I did not know she was going to Yale until
Like January.
I think it was the Instagram post.
I think so.
on
So like a month after
our
I got
school's
accepted.
thing.
Yeah. Like a month after I got accepted. But like,
she
yeah.
didn't even know I was taking theater and performance studies.
Yeah.
She thought I was still taking hospitality management.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So it
it's
shows that we talk so much, yet we forget to update each other on some of the most important things.
yeah. So, yeah, making your list of universities is so crucial because it also kind of maximizes your chances of acceptance, right? Because, you know, if it's a school that you like, for sure you'll make your application much more valuable.
And I think for me, something that was important to consider was location.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah.
to me, London is very important.
Yes.
And for the theater scene,
Yeah.
it's very important as well.
Mhm.
So I wanted a place that wasn't too far away from London.
Yeah.
And so I ruled out certain universities
Mhm, mhm.
because of that.
The distance from London. Yeah, same. I prefer the East Coast because,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
because like it's near New York, there's New York City,
Yes, New York is amazing.
and I like snow.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yes, so, I guess another thing I also considered is we have some family or family friends.
Oh, yeah,
in the
that's
UK.
important.
So it's also like where they are. Not
Yeah.
that it dictated at all where I ended up
Yeah.
deciding to go, but that was also part of the consideration, I guess, especially for my parents.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. All right. So after you make your list of universities and you just check with your counselor, check with your parents if it's all okay, you know, the first thing that the university admissions officers will look at will most likely be your academics, like your transcript, your grades, where you went to school, blah, blah. And I think from our case, we went to an international school and studied the International Baccalaureate. Well, so I mean, it's not just limited to IB, but I feel like international curriculums, like, it kind of gives the benefit of, like, you know, number one, is like very rigorous, so you kind of prepare for like the university rigor and the pressure and the stress, and also
Recognized internationally.
it's recognized internationally,
Yeah.
and you just feel like when you get into university, you're not too overwhelmed
Yeah.
because you're used to stress and
I mean,
all
I
that.
can't say from my personal experience yet because I'm not yet in university.
Yeah.
But lots of people that graduated from our school have said that DP is harder.
Yeah.
Than
like their
DP.
first year
Yeah,
especially.
especially that.
So it's very useful, and I think universities, they can kind of, especially international ones, they can kind of be like, okay, this kid is legit, you know, because, you know, if you take, let's say, like a local curriculum, they have to kind of do a bit of extra work just to check, like, you know, is this
But I
really
guess
meeting?
also,
Yeah.
depending on what language your country speaks,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
might have to do additional English tests.
Yeah, like
things
TOEFL,
that, which
IELTS.
I did not have to do.
Same.
Yeah, and that's obviously not to say that people with national curriculums wouldn't be able to be successful.
They could.
Or
Yeah.
they, would have a very hard time. Or
They
that
just
they're
need
less
extra- yeah.
capable. It's not to say that at all. Like, we're
Yeah, this just,
Not-
yeah.
trying to say that we're better than anyone else, but it's just saying that we actually have it easy in a way.
Yeah.
In terms of like the application.
Yeah.
Because we don't need to really explain ourselves as much or maybe do additional
Yeah,
testing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard, period. And so I guess like the other thing about, you know, academics, besides which curriculum you kind of go for, whether it be AP, IB, A levels, IGCSE or whatever, I think like they also look at the choices of classes that are available to you and which classes you chose for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I know like in our experience for IB, you need to choose like one English class, one math, 2 sciences or 2 humanities,
Yeah.
and 1 second language if you want, or art or music. So, you know, of course, like it depends on what your school offers, but, you know, choice of classes is like very important because number one, it kind of shows how rigorous your workload was in the past couple years of high school. And also it kind of shows kind of what you're interested in, because if you chose it, that means you'll kind of like that subject.
Yeah.
And it can direct you towards the major that you're thinking of, and it can confirm whether you're actually interested in it and that you're capable of doing it very well, or if it's just, well, I think I'll go for something else. So
I guess for me, the choice of classes wasn't as important because we had nothing at our school that would very obviously support my theater and performance studies major. But I guess some of the HL classes I took, so psych and history, for example, even though I didn't choose it because of the major I wanted to take, it actually helped me in many ways to prepare for that major. So for example, in psychology, I can understand the psychology of various characters, why people do certain things. And history, it's, for example, if I have to play this certain character and they're from this certain time, I can figure out the context and why they would do what they did more easily, I guess. So sometimes you realize that certain subjects can help you without you intending for that to necessarily happen, maybe.
Yeah, for sure, like skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in my case, like for the US, like because I indicated that I want to major in economics, although I don't have to officially declare it until like my second year. And so like for my HLs, I took English, Lit, Math, Analysis, and Econ. So for sure, like the Econ and Math were kind of like directing me towards economics. But I think like, as you said, like for example, English Lit, it just supported me in my ability to analyze very closely. And also just, you know, it was just something that I enjoyed.
English Lit, of course, would help me as well.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, like what Vic said, close reading of the text. Understanding characters, etc.
And also we enjoyed it. Yes.
That's
like
in English class. We were fangirling over Shakespeare, I think. He hated us because we kept on wanting to talk about it.
But we had to move on. Yeah. So in short, choose classes that are rigorous, but you know that you can do well and you know that you will enjoy, you know, because, you know, and like it will also help you in terms of like your grades. Of course, you know, if you have good grades from the start, it's a bit easier. But, you know, if they see that there's like an upward trend in your grades and it's improving, it's also a good sign for you, right? Because it's hard for you to succeed in a subject that you don't really like at all. So
that's true.
Right.
And also, I guess in a way, my last point would be you might want to choose classes that would be easy for you to get good grades. But at the same time, that shouldn't be your only consideration when selecting classes. Because you also want to do things that challenge you or that you might enjoy. Even if it's tough.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, in the UK, like for the US, they look at your report card from grade 9 to 12. Is that the same thing?
I believe it was just my predicted grade.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm aware of because that's what I had to work on getting submitted.
Okay.
But then again, I don't know if my counselor submitted something.
So like generally kind of like grade 11 and 12 kind of.
And I'm not sure if that's because of my subject choice or if it's general. But I think it's more so your DP grades.
Yeah, so check your curriculum. They might expect different things. But for sure the US, anywhere you are, grade 9 to 12. So think early. Moving on, I guess like the next big thing is extracurriculars in the application. Now for the UK, is it as big of a component?
Okay, so here's the thing because the application, the personal essay, I guess, is very much about your subject and your experience in that subject. I guess it is important because you're not answering a particular prompt.
Yeah.
So they're not, for example, asking about how your childhood shaped you, although I don't know if that's anything they ask people asked.
Yeah.
But it really helped that I had lots of extracurriculars in drama because then I can talk about that and show my passion in a very real way in my application, and I think that helped me a lot.
Yeah, so basically going for extracurriculars that are kind of focused on what you're intending to study.
Because your application should be very focused on that particular subject.
Yeah. All right. Well, the U.S. is pretty different. from my experience, I applied using the common application, and so they provide like 10 spaces, like a maximum of 10, to put in a list of your extracurriculars and like the details surrounding that. But some universities can like provide extra space for you to talk about it, though not all do. So generally 10. And now it's good to be well-rounded, like doing something and everything, but I would say like, you know, kind of leaning a bit towards like the UK, like it's proved successful to me. Like it's great to have like a spike or several spikes rather than just be like well-rounded all over the place, right? You want to keep your activities centered on a couple fields. So that number one, you can commit better, and number two, you can deepen yourself in that field. Now the US isn't particularly focused on a certain major, because like sometimes like majors, like, you know, you won't be able to get as many opportunities in that major, right? So, you know, just showing that you have interests centered around like one or two things can really make you stand out a bit more in your application.
And I would also suggest not to do extracurriculars just for the sake of being able to write about it in your university application. Because people can tell
if it's
whether
real.
it's genuine or whether you're actually passionate about it or not.
You want to do things that can lead to memorable experiences, you know? And those memorable experiences that really shaped you can be great topics for essays, instead of just something like, oh, I worked with my friend on making, you know, the next physics theory. Like, you know, like you want to make sure that it's something that really inspired you, that you really had fun doing, right? And so each application in the US kind of has a theme, you know? And like usually the successful applications are those that you can kind of pin down to a couple words. Not to like, you know, just like reduce someone into like 3 or 4 words, but like you want to be remembered succinctly as, for example, the kid who won Science Olympiad and is working with pharmaceutical companies, instead of the kid who did Science Olympiad, you know, humanities, saving the environment, built houses, and, you know, did lots of basketball and volleyball. Like you want like that's like all over the place, and like you wouldn't stand out because so many other kids are gonna do that, right? You want to be just focused on like 1 or 2 things, and as from like the overall, and I guess it applies to both US and UK, you want to do things that make you happy. Right? Because I feel like it's kind of unlikely for a person to enjoy every single thing in the world. Right? And when you do things that make you happy, then you'll succeed in it and you will go extra for it because you see it as a fun thing to do. It's not a chore for your UCAS or your Common App or your Uni app. It's something fun to do, and it contributes to your university application simultaneously.
And I guess even from what we've been saying so far, there is a lot more stuff maybe for the US application, especially because you need to apply with multiple applications to different places. Whereas in the UK, it's kind of one application for 5 universities with the US. Of course, there are some universities that would accept your application just directly to that university, but that's not a route I chose to take, so I can only speak about UCAS. And it is a lot more simple, I guess, than Victoria's experience.
Yes.
Okay, so
now
next thing.
Next thing is teacher recommendations, and this is so important because I feel like people kind of wave it off as like, oh yeah, my teacher can do it or something, but it's really quite a crucial part of your application for both US and UK, and because they want to just know, besides your grades and like how smart you are, they also want to see like, you know, how are you as a person. You know, do you listen to your teachers? Do you participate? Do you come to classes? Do you have a good attitude to learning? That's like really key. And like, do you have a good attitude to like your friends around you? You know, like whether they need help or not, or like, are you, you know, willing to take the initiative to reach out and ask for help? You know, and a way to get good recommendations is to maintain good relationships with your teachers. And like, that's very cliche, I know, but it's so important because, you know, you may be an amazing person, but at the end of the day, you're a student, right? So in the UK, how many recommendation letters? 1?
Yes.
Wow, that's nice.
So that was pretty easy.
That's quite nice.
It was funny because the teacher I asked, he said he would be offended if I didn't let him write the application. So So that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a good start.
For the US, of course, because there is so much more things to put in. They ask for 2 recommendation letters from your teachers, and usually it's like from different fields. Like, let's say like it can't be both from the social sciences or both from the natural sciences or both from languages. It used to be like, a language and a social science, or a social science and a natural science. So
it doesn't necessarily have to be about the subject.
No.
Okay.
So it's kind of personality, like, they look at your
Okay.
behavior. And another one from your school counselor, or like a school official, I guess. And then there's another optional one that can be written by a club supervisor, a coach, an internship supervisor, or like another teacher. And I think that kind of looks a bit more at your performance outside the classroom.
So you got that one?
Yeah, I got that one done from like one of my club supervisors.
Okay.
So it just gave like another view of me by someone that isn't me. So it kind of gave a third-person view of me, I guess.
But I guess at the same time, yes, we're saying that teacher recommendations are very important, and they are.
Yeah.
But that is not to say that your personal essay is less important. If you have a bad personal essay, they're not going to care what your teacher said.
Everything needs to be balanced.
Yes, because I think some people, and we've talked about this in private before, have neglected their personal essays in favor of focusing on their grades or teacher recommendations.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out very well for them. Focus on everything equally. And don't try to control what your teachers say about you. If they have something good to say, they will say it.
Yeah. And like most of the time you can't see what your teachers wrote anyway.
Yeah.
So
but don't keep on bothering them.
Yeah. Leave them be.
What are you gonna write? Are you gonna include this, that?
Yeah.
No, let them have their moment.
Yeah, because they will think about it very thoroughly. They won't screw you over.
No, I don't think so.
So talking about personal statements, essays, all that. So, you want to go first for the UK?
You can go first.
Okay, I'll go first because it's quite a lot. So, for the US, there are 2 types of essays. One is like the Common App essay, or like I guess the coalition essay. That's like for the other type of application. That is sent to all the universities. And then there's the other one, which is called supplementary essays, and those are supplements, and they and each university has their own set of questions for supplementary essays. So I'll start with the first one, the Common App essay. That one has very generic prompts, and oftentimes those prompts are quite similar, or if not like the same every single year. But you really need to shine through in those 650 words. For most universities, they don't really ask for really long essays, so this is probably like the longest essay that you have to do. You need to get it right in the sense like it appeals to all the universities that you're going for. And
so it's very important that you don't push on one university and be like, I want to go there.
Yeah, like you don't want to say I want to go to Yale. No, like don't say that in that essay. And the questions that they ask, you can only choose one. They kind of ask like for stories, and I guess like honestly the US they kind of want to see if you're a good storyteller, and like they also want to see like your personality and your experiences. So for the Common App essay, you want to tell a story that fits 650 words. You don't want to tell your whole life story. You just want to choose one moment in time, or like a particular scenario that happened that can show your personality, your growth, and or your interests. Now that seems like a lot to like fit into 650 words, but it's possible. And like I think like a really good way that you could approach this is by looking on YouTube to see examples of people's Common App essay. Like lots of people read theirs online. And so because I've listened to them like for the longest time for inspiration, each person's essay is really different. Like even if they're answering the same prompt, it's so different. Each person's essay is very personal, and that's just how it's supposed to be. It's supposed
to make
to
you more confused though, looking at so many different examples.
Not necessarily, because theirs is like their particular story, and it shows who that person is in a very vulnerable way. So for example, let's say the prompt is talk about I'm just paraphrasing. Talk about a moment that has changed you. But like that's very generic, right? And like this one person can talk about their parents' divorce, or another person can talk about just like this one particular moment when they were standing on a stage and looking over the crowds of people in front of them. Or in my case, it was just like this one moment when I was speaking in moot court and just trying to keep a rhythm, counting, so that my brain stays focused and so that I don't go on a tangent and talk too fast. So these are like little tiny moments that show who you are in a vulnerable way, but simultaneously are very insightful, I guess, because it shows what you learn, right? So it's a bit...
I guess, just to add maybe, because you're talking about how you looked at various examples and things like
that.
For me, like the kind of person I am, I think that would confuse me and make me feel like I have to follow a particular format. And things like that. So you don't have to have the same journey as another person. You don't have to look at examples if you don't want to. And you can look at examples if you want to.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the Common App essay. Moving on, there's the supplementary essays, and usually they're shorter. Like some can be 100 words, some can be like 50 characters, like and then there can be some that are like 500 words. So they vary from university to university, and usually you would get maybe around like, I guess it depends. Some universities ask for just one, some ask for like 5.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, that's why applying to the US is pretty tiring in that sense.
I'm tired of listening to you. I mean, not as in it's boring, but like, oh my
there's
goodness,
just so
the amount
much
of work.
Exactly. And so it is pretty stressful, but when you take it seriously and you read those questions, you can kind of see that those questions can indicate what students the university is looking for and like what vibe they're going for.
Makes sense.
Right? Like if the university kind of asks questions that's that's focused on, for example, your extracurriculars, maybe they're interested to see a kid who's like active outside class.
Right.
Like that's just a simple way of putting it. But like, okay, in Yale, for example, for Yale, there were questions about like who you are as a person. So it kind of indicated to me, okay, they're interested in who I am and like whether I'm a cool person or not. Like, so different universities can focus on different things.
You're not much of a person.
But I am.
Yeah,
This is cool.
Okay.
Sure. But I mean, so you can, the best way to also see for yourself whether you fit into that university is like, can you answer their questions rather, seamlessly in a sense, especially for like your dream schools, right? Because if you look at an essay, like a question, and you're like, oh my gosh, how on earth do I answer this?
And it's just for the application.
And it's just for the application. Like, you start to wonder, like, am I a great fit for this school or not? Like, of course, like with every essay, you need to think about what you want to say, right? But if you're like seriously like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to approach this at all, even after looking online for examples and tips, what on earth do I say? It's just completely not in my comfort zone or not in what's normal to me, then maybe it's not as great of a fit for you, right? Because, those schools are looking for a particular type of person. And if you're not the type of person that can answer their questions in a rather insightful, yet succinct way, you need to ask yourself, am I legit for this school? And, I think for the US, they're just looking for essays that, of course, they want to see, do you communicate yourself in a very nice way? Like, you don't need to be Shakespeare. You can use like simple language, but you need to use simple language to convey something pretty deep about yourself, and it's kind of challenging. But they also want to see, like, do you fit into that university? And that's a bit subjective and it's a bit annoying. So the best way is ask, people who are closest to you to read your essays and see, like, does this essay really capture me to the best of its ability? So yeah. Yes.
Well, okay, so now I'm going to move on to the UCAS personal statement.
Yeah.
So to begin with, if I'm not mistaken, it's 4,000 characters.
Yeah.
So let's say give or take about 500 words.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be very focused on your subject.
Mm.
Initially, I was thinking of applying to one university focusing on hospitality management, and maybe 4 on theater and performance studies, depending on, the situation, because I didn't know how sure I was. And I talked to my counselor, and she said, well, you only have 1 essay, so if you separate that into 2, then it won't be good, because they're gonna look at you and think she doesn't know what she wants to do in life. She's unfocused. And of course that makes total sense. I don't know what I was thinking. But I guess, sometimes when you're panicked and you are unsure, that's something that comes up in your mind. So I would say focus on one particular subject, and of course certain subjects are named different things in different schools, but as long as it's kind of under one area and related to each other, that's a good place to start. And the second thing is, I feel like UK essays, because it's more subject specific, are more academic in a way. Yeah. Especially if your subject is more academic. And when I say academic, I don't mean that drama is not hard or intellectual, but I guess like math, something like that.
Physics.
Yes. So you should focus on those things, and don't be afraid to show that you know about your subject. Yeah. Like, of course, you want to show that you are eager to learn more stuff, but show that through your experiences you already know some stuff, and be very specific. Don't say, for example, I talked about how I watched a performance of The Comedy of Errors in Singapore, and how I found the comedy in it something very interesting because it was very physical, and I felt like I should try that sort of comedy out because I'm scared to do comedy on stage. Yeah. But if I just said that, anyone could say that. Yeah. So I had to say specifically, there was this section in this part where this person untied the rope or tied the rope around this person, and I chose to do it that way because whatever. Yeah. So be very specific, because it shows that you're not stealing someone else's experience or just saying that this experience affected you on the surface level, but that you can actually unpack it in an intellectual and cohesive manner, and you understand its impact on your growth as a person, and especially in this subject area. And another thing is, even in being academic or focused on your subject, you should still show your personality. And the way I did that, especially with something like drama, you want to show that you can be expressive and dramatic and have emotions. Yeah. I actually put 1 or 2 sentences maybe that had exclamation points to end it, and you might be afraid of that because you think, oh, this has to be very academic, this has to be very formal, and yes, it does have to be all of that too. Yeah. But it showed that I was genuinely excited about something without having to say that I was excited, because you don't want to repeat the same word so many times, and you also don't want to waste your words on something that can be expressed through punctuation. Yeah. But of course, don't put an exclamation point after every sentence, because that just is not right. Yeah. So don't hesitate to use colloquial language at times, and to just say things how you actually want to say it. You don't need to make everything fancy or finesse everything for the sake of it. Yeah. If you want to communicate that point the way you feel it in your heart, then say it that way. You don't need to put up this sort of facade of, I'm very professional, I am so formal, because you think that's what they want. Because that's not what they want. They have to read so many of these. They want something that jumps out at them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yes, don't be too wordy. You don't need to explain things that don't add to, I guess, your end goal. In writing your personal statement, you want to reach this, I guess, like climax. And if it's just giving context and background information that is not very important, then don't mention it. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's what I have to say about the personal statement in particular. Yeah. But before we kind of close off this podcast, I guess I also want to talk about unconditional or conditional offers in the UK, because I guess with UCAS you can get, like, the university can decline your application, so basically not accept you, give you an unconditional offer or a conditional offer. And I guess you, in your head, you might want an unconditional offer because it means you're going to go no matter what. They're going to accept you no matter what. But when I was going to one of the open days, I guess, with one of the universities, and it actually happened to be Warwick, the person was explaining to me why Warwick does not give unconditional offers and why most universities don't, and it's to motivate the students. Because if you're already told you're going to get accepted no matter what your grades are, then you might kind of slow down and relax and regret some of the things you chose to do or not do. Whereas if you have a conditional offer, you'll still put in that work and you'll still be excited to face these sort of challenges that will inevitably arise in your academic work or your extracurriculars and things like that. Sorry. Yeah, so I think don't be discouraged if you don't get an unconditional offer, and actually be encouraged that you're getting a conditional offer. And I would also say take your time in deciding what you want to put as your firm or insurance choice, because I basically, after I got the news, I guess, from all of the universities I applied to, I immediately chose, I think the night of or the day after, which one I wanted to put as my insurance or firm, because I thought I knew for sure. And then more than 14 days after I decided on that, I had a freak out moment that I told you about earlier I told the counselor that I wanted to change everything. And of course I didn't end up doing that because I actually came to the realization I made the right decision. But just to save your counselor or yourself or your family from that panic, I think just take your time and don't let the excitement get to you.
Think about it thoroughly.
Definitely.
Because for the US, I applied early to Yale, but even so, applying early, you also want to consider which one do you want to apply early to. And so think about everything rather carefully. Make sure that if you're applying early to the US, make sure that it's a school that you really want to get into, but don't just think okay, I must apply to the hardest one because early is easier. No, it's not easier. It's still as stressful, if not more stressful, because everyone applying early are the people who really put that school as their number one. So you'll be going against the best applications out there. So even after you get accepted, some schools are early decision and they're binding. So if you're in, then you're in. But then there are other schools that are non-binding, and they give you time until around May to make your decision of which school you want to go to.
Was Yale binding?
No.
Oh, okay.
So think about it carefully. you know?
And I would also say when you submit your UCAS application, I would suggest doing it in early December. I think the deadline was sometime in January, although I believe this year it got extended a bit. Because then you have it off your plate, I guess. And you can just breathe while other people are panicking, and it's pretty fun, I guess, in a way. So I think I submitted it on the 6th of December or something like that. And so I could enjoy my Christmas break and just chill. And also, my counselor told me about this person that got an offer from UCAS very quickly after he submitted. And I guess in a way it made me want to kind of always wait and check my UCAS track thing to see whether I had gotten a reply. And although I got most of my replies pretty quickly, I would say, you don't need to feel discouraged if you don't get it in a week or 2 weeks. And you just have to be patient, because it doesn't mean that yours didn't stand out to them as much. It might mean they just have lots of things they have to look at, and don't be discouraged, I guess, is what the main point is.
I guess don't be discouraged about this whole process.
Yes, it's not as scary as you think it is. Of course, it is tiring, and especially, I guess, with the US, if you're applying to many, many universities. But don't let that bring down your morale.
You really want to make sure that you communicate a lot with your teachers or your university counselor, because they will give you so much more insight about the process, and you'll feel so much more relieved, honestly. And I think just of course you need to think carefully, because 4 years or 3 years in the UK is still a very long time. Right? You want to go to a school that you like, that you'll enjoy, but will also challenge you. So think carefully, of course, but still remember to have fun. We threw a lot at you in 40 minutes, but
Oh my goodness, something just came up into my mind.
Oh
real
no,
quick.
what is it?
Yeah, but basically, I would say don't ask for too many people to read your personal statement, because that will only go to confuse you.
Yeah.
I got 2 people to read it, so my English tutor and my counselor.
Uh-huh.
And I think even then, like, they sometimes gave conflicting comments.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me thinking about certain things, which was good, but at the same time, it made me panic at, and so you want to make sure that you're finding your 2 or 3 people that you really trust.
Yeah.
And rather than 5 people or just getting your friends to read it, blah, 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 if you want to focus and get the best results.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you want to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like, okay.
You want other people to write it for you.
Yeah. And like, they want to see you. They don't want to see your 40-year-old whatever, your mom or like your 40-year-old English teacher or something, okay?
Yeah.
Like, they want to see you. So as Talya said, being a bit personal sometimes and like, having like little like, sentences where like sometimes you kind of show a bit more of yourself in like a less formal way. It's very helpful because these people, they don't expect to see like Harvard graduate 25-year-old law student. They want to see at the end of the day the 17-year-old kid, and who is able to talk formally, but has the personality of a 17-year-old.
That's true.
Right? Like, so of course, be specific. You don't want to steal your ideas from other people, and being specific and like very intentional about your word choices is of course very helpful. But at the end of the day, don't be a wordsmith if you aren't.
Yeah.
Just do what feels kind of natural to you. If it's not something, if it's not something you say on a daily basis, don't say it.
Exactly.
So
well,
yeah,
guys, I think that's all for today's podcast.
Yes.
And we are
2 Tweedledums Thinking.
Yes.
And that seems contradictory to what Tweedledums are. But honestly, we are outliers. Those are our thoughts for today, and we hope we got you thinking about your university applications. Not too much though, otherwise you won't listen to us anymore. My name is Victoria.
And my name is Talya.
And this is 2 Tweedledums Thinking.
See you Tweedledees next time!
Bye!